and welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located in Naperville for people in career transition. If you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, this show is for you. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. On this month's edition of Career Center, we will be talking career transition. Later on Career Center, I will be joined by Antoinette Dubois-Ayers to discuss career transition, dealing with change, creating relationships, and building an unbreakable confidence. But first, it is my pleasure to have Deborah Pavich join me at the table. Deborah is the owner of Express Employment Professionals. Deborah, welcome.
Thank you very much, Kimberly.
It's a long
Thank you
intro.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I appreciate you asking me to join you.
So I know you all just recently opened up Express Employment Professionals right near our office, and you're a staffing agency.
Yes, we're a full-service human resource company.
Okay.
And Express, as a company, has been around since 1983. It's a franchise situation, so all 750 franchise locations are locally owned and operated. So within the northern Illinois area, we have a contingency of probably 12 different Express locations, and all owned by different owners, but they're all owned individually. My husband and I own the office in Lombard as well as in Naperville.
Okay. And so tell me, what type of positions are you looking to fill? Are they the same at both agencies?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Lombard location has been open for almost 19 years, and we're relatively new in the Naperville location. But it really is driven by what our clients are in need of. Okay. We mostly do office service support as well as skilled labor positions. But if they need someone to push a broom around to clean a warehouse for an inspection they're having, we can provide that as well. So it all really depends on what our client demands are.
So your office in Lombard and then your office in Naperville, do you serve then the area at large? So Naperville, you're looking to hire people in the Naperville area, but it could also be in Chicago or?
Well, we really try to place people in a geographically desirable area. Okay. So we don't really want to send someone from Chicago to work in an office in Naperville or a warehouse in Naperville. It's the commute, it's not going to last.
Right.
So we are ISO certified in our screening, interviewing, and placing process. And one of the steps is finding out where someone does live.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the trends that you're seeing in the market now in terms of folks looking for work.
Besides an extremely large skill gap shortage, which is now going in its second year, if not longer, it looks like 2016 is going to have the temporary employee is going to stay put because of the uncertain economy. Companies don't really want to add to their head count until they truly feel comfortable that they are in a position to grow. So companies come to you and you're placing someone in a temporary position, and what are the chances or the likelihood of someone being that position being made permanent? We are told on the front end whether it's going to be in an evaluation to hire type of position where they work so many hours and then they can become our client employee, or on the higher level positions, it's direct hire, okay? Or just temporary, it's just for a certain amount of time. We do work with clients that have had our employees there for 6 years. They don't want to add to their head count. They're just strictly temporary employees, but we provide paid sick days and vacation days, as well as insurance. So we are like an employer.
Okay. So when someone comes into your office, what's the process? What do they do? What are the steps that they take?
Before they even come in, we screen them on the phone to make sure that, like I said, they live in a geographically desirable area, they have their own form of transportation, and they have a solid work history. So there can't be any giant gaps in their history of working. And if there is, we need to know why, and they need to be able to make a reasonable wage. So if someone has priced themselves out of the range of what that position they can perform, we're not going to bring them in because we'd be wasting everyone's time. When they come in, they fill out a complete application along with some skills testing, consent for background checks, and then there's a one-on-one interview.
with someone in your
Yes,
office?
exactly. We meet everyone. If they have any type of word processing skills, they test on those. The skills results come back by beginning, intermediate, and advanced level of skill, of proficiency. And that's important for our clients because they might say, I just need someone that knows Excel. They don't have to create cells. They just, right, exactly. Yeah. And we really need to know how well qualified our associates are before we send them to a client.
Are you doing any type of training over there or any?
We have tutorials, so if it's somebody just re-entering the workforce, if they want to brush up on their word processing, Word or Excel, they can come in and do the tutorial online as many times as they want, and then they would just retest if they felt that they improved their scores.
What about, do the clients come with their resume? I know you say they fill out an application, but do they have a resume? Okay.
They either
present. Do you help with those who may not have a resume to?
If someone does not have a resume, it's usually a lower skilled person, which is fine, and we use our profile. So our profile that we submit to our clients is their complete work history as well as what they're proficient at and their dates of employment. So unless somebody's done a specific skill for 6 months, Kimberly, we're not going to put down that they have that experience. Okay?
And so what are some other trends that you're seeing? Just
you know, just the overall people are really afraid to add to their head count. They really, really are, because once they get over, once they get over the 50 employees, it's a game changer. So they'll keep very close eye on how many employees they have, and then anybody after that, they'll say, okay, we need you to provide these employees.
And you mentioned, so you guys, you mentioned the gap in the, in the skilled worker, probably at the more of the warehouse level.
Right, exactly.
Why is that, you think? That's happening?
I don't know. I don't know if they're not taking
Because I know that there's
trade schools, you know, and we go in and we talk to people in high school and we talk to them about the trades. There's a lot of vocational centers that people can get their skills at, and maybe they haven't thought about what they want to do, and they just we don't really know. We've tried to educate the people coming up, as well as other clients in our area. They're trying to work with it too. Right.
Do you work with your clients on social media type stuff? Talk to them about being on LinkedIn or importance of that?
They have.
Or they come already?
They pretty much come. They know what they want to do. They've got that set up.
Back to the resume. What are some things that you've seen? Perhaps some mistakes people are making on their resumes that you guys are finding there.
3 pages rather than one if you can. Yeah. Very creative writing. The one thing that we find a lot, which I don't understand, are typos. And that is a game changer. If we present that and there's a typo in there, I don't care how good you are.
So if someone comes to you, though, with a resume, I mean, you're kind of a middle, man, if you will.
Right,
so you can kind of help them with that.
Right.
But you have to also make sure that that's not going to be a consistent thing going forward with the company.
We have to have confidence in the people we place because that's our reputation. So if we don't, we're never going to put a square peg in a round hole. And as long as we let our clients know where we stand, what we've been finding, they're good with that. They want to know, and sometimes we have to realign and readdress where we really want to go because perhaps what they're looking for really isn't out there.
So you've had your office, you said, since 19 years over in Lombard.
Right, in Lombard.
So in 2008, 2009, back when things were clearly a lot different than they are now. What are the things that you've seen that have changed?
When we first opened up, I remember when I did the sales, all the sales calls, getting someone's email address was like you were asking for an arm and a leg. It was like, no, we can't give that out. Now it's here. Take their email address. That's okay. You can have it. It's changed, and people will respond to you with an email versus a phone call now.
Yeah, I think most employers probably prefer, they're just inundated.
Right, exactly. They get a lot of calls from recruiters and HR firms, and it's just easier to say, no, thank you, I'm sorry, whatever. But phone calls hardly ever get returned anymore, unless it's an ongoing basis where you are in a partnership with a client.
I know at the center we talk about staffing agencies or employment agencies that are, really good for job seekers to really be open to, because a lot of employers will reach out to bring in temporary folks in, and so that, as their HR departments have, shrunk a little.
Exactly.
Do you see the numbers still there? Back in 2008-9, I know we saw tons of people, but do you still see the numbers still at a high level in terms of?
Yes, we do. But it's on a lower level, and those are the people that we don't use or we don't employ. But people enjoy, some people just want the variety. And even if, I will tell you this, when we work with clients and they say, okay, this position is just temporary, never going to turn into anything. When you send a superstar, all of a sudden, oh, we want to hire this person. They find room when they when they see someone that would really fit in culturally with their client, and they bring skills to the table to help.
Wow. What are some other trends that you're seeing? Anything else in terms of?
No, the biggest one is people are really scared, which makes it great for us. We also work with clients that have had to recently downsize, and they'll send people to us to help them get used to interviewing again, especially if it's been a long-term employee. They're scared, and change for anybody is hard, especially after feeling comfortable for a long time in one company. So we work with them on their interviewing skills, and we'll try to get them placed to save the client that they just came from the unemployment hit.
Do you work with specific companies, or you're pretty?
No, manufacturing, anybody that has a customer service department. We don't do anything with retail or restaurants.
Okay.
There's a lot of niches in this business, Kimberly, and we can't serve everybody. So if somebody comes to us and says, all right, I need a salesperson, we don't do that. We have a specific database, and it's very well stocked. But if somebody came to us and said, I want you to get me a salesperson, I'd have to establish that all over again, try to find people. It wouldn't be cost effective, nor it wouldn't be time wise for them. So it's a niche business, so you kind of have to go to what you are interested in.
And what about benefits? Does your company, do you guys offer benefits?
Our temporaries and eval to hire people, depending on how long they've been there, accrue vacation time based on hours worked, as well as paid time off, holiday pay, and they can elect to get insurance for themselves, just a spouse or a family member.
Okay, so they can get insurance.
Yes,
paid time. And your typical employee is with you how long?
Well, it depends if they get a job. If they get a permanent job right away, it just depends. Some want to be temporaries. Don't ask me why. They have great backgrounds. They just want to experience different companies. So it really just depends where we place them right out of the box.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you. Deborah, thank you. We're out of time, but I want to thank you for coming on the show and for sharing trends and tips to our audience. Now, don't go away, because when we come back, Antoinette Du Bois Ayers will be joining me at the table discussing, among other things, building an unbreakable confidence during career transition. We'll be right back after these important public service announcements.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, and joining me at the table is executive coach and trainer Antoinette Du Bois Ayers. Antoinette works with Advantage Coaching and Training and has some great advice on transformation during career transition. Antoinette, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Kim.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about Advantage Coaching and Training and what you do there.
The question I like to ask people is, how many people do you know that have goals or a vision that they've been wanting to work on and it just hasn't happened to them? Lots, right? There's lots of people out there that want to make things happen. And we are really about the psychology of success, working with people to create top performance. And we do that through multiple channels. One is through executive coaching, and the other is through training, either team training or group training. But what's the common thread is that we are looking to help people understand what their strengths are, their challenges and even the blocks that they may come across that stop them from getting where they want to go. And then we look at strategies, and we want them to get into action so that they can actually have an impact on what they're looking at being successful in.
Good. So we all know change is difficult, especially during a transition, right? And you talk about 3 stages of transition.
Yes.
Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so the 3, you're absolutely right. I mean, change is difficult for most people. And so one of the things that we look at is William Bridges' stages of change. And the first thing we like for people to know is that there's a difference between change and transition. Change is something that happens to you, like when your company downsizes or when you lose your job. That's a change. Transition is the process that we go through. So when we talk about the psychology of success, what's going on within us when this change has happened? And so the 3 stages of change are endings, the neutral zone, and beginnings. And so with endings, this is when the loss has occurred. This is when the change has happened. And in that stage, we know what we've lost, but we don't know what's next. And this can be a traumatic time for people.
Absolutely.
What's important to know about this is until we understand what the loss is, it's hard to move on into that neutral zone. So that's the first stage that people work through. The second is the neutral zone. And this is where we know what we've lost, and yet we don't know what's happening next. It's a real stage of ambiguity. And this happens to be the most difficult stage. And it is typically the stage that people are in when they're looking for careers. So they know that they've lost their work, but they don't really know what's ahead of them. And finally, in the beginning stage is when now we know, again, what we've lost and where we're going. And this is where we have to get into action. It's time to go.
Now, is there a time frame that you expect people to kind of go from ending to neutral zone to beginning?
That is a great question. People work at different paces, and that's important to know. Some people will zoom right through, and that depends on your style and what you're comfortable with and what's going on. Other people will move more slowly, and again, it has to do with working through each stage of transition.
So what are some tactics that job seekers can use to get through the neutral zone?
The neutral zone. Yeah, so again, with that being the most difficult stage, it's important to think about, how you want to work through it. The first one is to normalize it. And I know that you do that a lot at the Career Center, is to understand that other people are in this position, that there's a process for looking for a job, and that there are tactics that you can use, and that it's one piece of your life. It is not your entire life. The second stage that we like for people to look at is to be creative. This is a time, again, it's that ambiguous stage. So while we know what's gone and we don't know what's ahead, it's really an opportunity to be creative and figure out how can we create what's ahead of us, and what kind of tools and programs and things like what, again, you offer at the center, you can use to be think outside of the box about where you can go. And then finally, we ask people to, in the neutral stage, to really look at the relationships that are around them. Look for support, and make sure that you have supportive relationships around you. And again, I know there's a lot of that going on with different teams and groups at the center. So those are all really important things to do during that neutral zone.
Yeah, and when you talk about support, I mean, you talk about, you think about like confidence. You have to keep your confidence up during this time. And oftentimes you need support in order to help you do that. So you talk about building an unbreakable confidence, which I love.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so confidence is an interesting thing. People have different perspectives and ideas about confidence, and we like to say confidence is this balance between humility and self-assurance. And sometimes people think it's, confidence is the opposite of humility, or some people even think it's arrogance. And in reality, it's a balance between the two. If there's too much confidence, we can border on arrogance. If there's too much humility, we may seem insecure, and we want to project true confidence. One of the other things that happens with confidence is sometimes you'll have people walk in, I'm sure, that feel like they don't have an issue with confidence. And when we say that, again, there are things you want to look at if you're not confident, and those are different strategies I'll talk about in a minute. But let's say you are confident. And we like to challenge people to say that if you feel like you don't need any more confidence, what we see in really successful people is they're constantly working on their confidence. It might mean that you're not pushing to the edge of your abilities, that you actually may be leaving some opportunities on the table for stretching in a new way.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned the strategies. Let's talk about those now.
So the approach that we use with strategies is really a multifaceted approach. Typically, when you're talking about building confidence, you'll hear a single-faceted approach, which means when we think about confidence, we think, what do I need to do internally? What do I need to do mentally to change the way that I feel about myself? Well, a multifaceted approach is where we're looking at 5 different areas, not just our mental strategies, but also emotional, behavioral, relational, and also what we call spiritual. And there are different things we can do with the mental strategies. We're talking about things like, let's say we've got a lot of clutter, like clutter in our head. What kinds of tools and things can we use to declutter, okay, so that we are mentally confident? If we look at emotional strategies, this is how what our insights are and how we feel. And we use senses quite often with that, like our senses, what we see, what we hear. So this could be music. Think about a morning you don't feel like getting out of bed and one of your favorite songs comes on. What does that do for you?
It's exciting.
I mean, it helps you to feel some energy. You want to get up. So those can be emotional strategies. Behavioral, what are the things that help us act confident? What is it for you? And so we look at these individually. For some people, it's about getting up and moving around. And then just moving on to the other 2, relational, there are people that can be draining for us, and there are people that can be energizing. And so making sure that we're building that kind of strategy. And spiritual is really about, where do you want to go? What's your mission? How do you look at these differently? And so when we talk about, again, multifaceted versus single-faceted, think about working out in the gym. Do you go in and just work on one muscle, your bicep?
No.
So when we're talking about working on being confident, we're talking about working the complete, working the complete system.
You also talk about keys to connecting with others quickly.
Yes. So in connecting with others, if we think about how important it is that someone understands us or sees us, we give tips on first understanding yourself, okay? What's our style of communication? Are you sort of fast in your communication, or are you more methodical? Are you more questioning and skeptical, or are you open and warm? And this is a style of communication that we have. And so we talk first and teach people first about how to understand their own style, and then moving on to understand someone else's style and adapting. Because what we know about people and communication is people like to work with someone who is like them or understands their style and feels like they can be heard.
And that's important when you're networking and you're trying to, get someone to help you, if you will, land your next success. And if they don't feel like they can relate to you,
Connect.
Talk to them. To help you. Where's the best place for job seekers to start in terms of connecting with potential folks that they're going to be working with?
Well, again, this is where we talk about what their style is, what is their communication style. So taking a look at where that person, what their communication style might be, and listening to, and we can do this, I've heard you talking a little bit about the electronic age and how people are doing things on emails. You can use the same strategy with the electronic communication, where if you have someone that's writing you a very quick email, that might give you an idea of what their style is, and you would want to respond that way. Whereas if somebody's really asking you how your day is in their email, you would want to respond that way. And so there are, again, different ways to connect, and you can do that in person and electronically as well.
Right. Okay. So building top performers, what's the difference in those who are successful and those who are not?
So we see different things. There can be a variety of blocks for people who are top performers, or different things. So sometimes you see blocks in the way organizations are run, or in the way people communicate, or in their conflict. When we're talking about job seekers, we like to look at their attitudes and what kind of attitudes do people carry. And so a couple that we look at are, do you have an attitude of abundance or an attitude of scarcity? And what that means is an attitude of scarcity is, are you looking at TV every night about the unemployment rate? Or are you looking at where new jobs are being created because of technology or because of the environment? And then we also talk about, so which attitude do you carry? And of course, an attitude of abundance is where we see successful people. The other thing we look at is an attitude of accountability or an attitude of independence. Now, you guys have accountability groups, which are really powerful. There's lots of research around that. So an attitude of accountability is, are you willing to be a little bit more vulnerable and allow people to let them know that you're going to tell them and be held accountable to what you say you're going to do. People who have an attitude of independence is they're keeping things closer to the vest. They're feeling a little less vulnerable about sharing what's working or what might not be working. And so again, we see people who are willing to be accountable to be much more successful.
Wow. This was really a very enlightening conversation. I want to thank you for being a part of this. I know this is, again, a 3-part series, A Time for Transformation, Building Unbreakable Confidence, and Keys to Connecting with Others Quickly.
Absolutely, and all of it ties into action and impact.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're out of time, but thank you for sharing this important information to our audience. I also want to thank Deborah Pavich for joining me on this month's edition of Career Center. And to our television audience, remember, if you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, visit the Community Career Center at 1815 West Deal Road, Suite 900 in Naperville, or search us on the web to learn more about the resources available to you as you search for your next success. Thanks so much for watching.